really like what you had to say about we often struggle to choose virtue, and if we do, we have to choose it incrementally. But with vice, we don't often intentionally choose it, or if we do intentionally choose it, we're choosing it as something that appears to be good, even though it's not.
Sure.
But that we often
get tricked into it.
We get distracted and we drift.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you an unfair question: have you where in your life have you maybe experienced that? I mean,
what are my vices?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, because I guess we could all point to obvious things when we were teenagers where you just drift, right? And then as you say, something wakes you up. You're like, I don't want to be this kind of person. And it's not until you hit that point. I'll let you think about that while I tell you this. I was talking to my wife last night. We were talking about how horrific it was that parents thought it was okay to let their children watch Friends.
Oh, yeah.
A show about stupid men and free whore women.
Yes.
No? Is that not it?
Well, so in talking about the things that are
was
are
also
my vices,
really funny, right?
Sure.
So you've got the free whore women and the stupid men.
Yeah.
Who are really funny.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself
Attractive.
laughing, exactly, very attractive. You
Live
find
in big
yourself
apartments.
laughing at sin.
Yes.
And you can't take sin seriously while you're laughing at it.
Yeah, whether it's Friends or Seinfeld was one of my favorite shows at the time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And
That's
I love
also
his stand-up
wicked.
comedy still to this day.
Is it not wicked?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
People get upset when I say things like that. I'm afraid that we see St. Paul, right? And he says, let there not be a hint of impurity among you. And we're like, just calm down. Like, I know how to watch Seinfeld.
Calm down, scripture.
Yeah.
Just don't get carried away.
I know how to watch Seinfeld without being led into this way of thinking. Like, I'm somehow different.
Right.
So I guess I don't say that to condemn anyone but myself.
Yeah.
That I feel that in me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, I don't want to be like a boorish prude. But you're like, well, then you've never met an interesting person. Like who I imagine C.S. Lewis was, right? Or like the many people I know here in Steubenville.
Right.
They don't sit around watching sitcoms. They sit around like laughing and drinking beer and reading beautiful things and praying together and shooting and hunting. But as a teenager and as a young adult, I guess I didn't realize it was possible to live a full, beautiful life without subjecting myself to that filth.
Yeah. You take what you're used to and you grasp at pleasures and happiness and you don't really try to connect any of those dots. So like, what is true happiness? What is blessedness? Like, these are just things that don't occur to you because nobody's really bothered to introduce those concepts to you. At least the way that I was raised, right? So my parents didn't have any exposure to philosophy or to ethics or dialectic or religion or anything like that. And so they couldn't give that to me. And for the most part, my cultural upbringing was pop culture and TV. Like, we would just watch a ton of TV. My parents were... Do
you mind if I ask how old you are? I'm wondering if we were watching the same shows.
41.
Yeah, I'm 40. So yeah, we probably were, because American culture went to Canada and Australia pretty much immediately.
Yeah. So, and my parents were split up, and so my mom was working, and she didn't get home until like 6 o'clock. And it's like, what's a 13-year-old boy going to do when he gets home? He's going to play video games. He's going to watch TV. He's going to eat junk food, and he's not going to think anything of it. At least by the time I started taking morality and my faith seriously, I was still doing those things, but I was kind of putting guardrails around them. Sort of like if there was a crude joke or a scene on TV, I'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't.
How bad is this? These people clearly don't know their dignity while I'm watching it.
And then I'd laugh at the next joke, right? That one's okay though. Yeah, we'll stick around, right? But at least there's something in your conscience and you're not just giving yourself into it. You're not endorsing it and you're not accepting the invitation fully.
Well, I think, when I became a Christian, when I accepted my Christian faith at the age of 17, those horrendous American Pie movies were out. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I shouldn't watch this, but not being able, I was able, but I chose not to.
Yeah.
Not being able to withstand the pressure. All of my friends are watching it. Like, this is,
Right.
And if a priest had the courage to say this is completely unacceptable, I would have hated him for it.
Yeah,
I would have resented him.
You talk about being a Catholic who was raised, you went to mass growing up, and then you had your reversion where you were taking yourself more seriously, and you still were left with the question, I think sex before marriage isn't quite right.
I remember saying after my conversion to a male friend of mine who was practicing homosexuality, right? And he confided in me that he was struggling with this. That it's like, well, if the church told me that homosexuality is a sin, I'd just tell the church, like, you're wrong. That was my opinion at the age of...
That was your opinion?
That was my opinion, like a year or two after my conversion. But of course it was.
Right.
Like, you don't want to let yourself off the hook, but you also want to be... Like, okay, well, how would someone ever come to hold that kind of view? Well, how about being propagandized, if that's a word?
Right.
Like Vogue and not that I've read those things, but for women, 17, that's all religious feminist propaganda.
Yeah.
It's as I'm going to shut up, but it's as religious as like a tract on Catholicism.
I mean, you think about gender theory. To say I was born in the wrong body, how is that not a spiritual statement? That's not a scientific statement by any stretch. It's not a rational statement. It's a mere assertion. And you're talking about, so what is, you're talking about your body and you're making it distinct from whatever you mean by I, your soul, I guess. So there's immediately, you're now a dualist, distinguishing these two things. Okay, fine. If you're a dualist, okay, if we live in a liberal democracy and people are allowed to think and believe whatever they want, including about themselves, okay, that's fine.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.